Welcome back to the Autoblog Podcast. I'm Greg Migliore. We have an awesome show for you this week. Lots of cool stuff we've been driving, like the Wrangler Rubicon 392 and the Dodge Challenger Hellcat Black Ghost. We also have a hybrid comparison, which is pretty important as well. Lots of stuff going on in the news. We may have a new F1 champ. Not this year. We're pretty sure it's going to be Max Verstappen, but we're going to revisit the 2008 season, which was quite controversial. Specifically, Felipe Massa will revisit the 08 season. A bunch of other things going on. We got an Alfa Romeo supercar, a Rabbit, and maybe a Lobo for the F-150. With that, senior editor for all things green and electric, that's John Snyder. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. It's been a busy and exciting day so far. And there's more to come.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot going on. Well, yeah, let's get right into it. 392. This is actually a Jeep that I have not driven. I am super excited because I'm going to be getting the plug-in electric. This is the 4xe Wrangler, I think, later today.
Oh, nice.
So I'm pretty psyched about that. But it's also been a minute since I've driven the Wrangler. So how is this V8 monster that you drove?
It's a monster. That's an accurate word for it. It is a little over the top. But in a good sort of Jeep way.
Okay.
I don't feel like I need that much power in a Jeep. But that said, it's a hoot, man. It is fun. That 6.4 liter Hemi puts out 475 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque. And man, it is loud. It's so funny. I was driving, just driving down the road, not flooring it or anything, just driving it normally. Anytime it shifts, it sounds like a subwoofer. The exhaust. It sounds like the bass from some like 90s techno song. It's just like this really deep subwoofer sound, and it's really kind of neat. But really fun car to drive. The Wrangler just keeps getting nicer and more comfortable. And yeah, it's maybe even a little easier to drive than I remember it. I remember, having sort of tired arms at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know whether this was on account of the big tires, just tracking a little better, but, this was, I wasn't making constant adjustments. It was surprisingly calm to drive when you want to drive it calmly. But when you put the accelerator to the floor, everyone looks at you and I don't know. I never know whether people are going to, shake their head at me or give me a thumbs up. But yeah, it's the Wrangler. I mean, it's still an icon. And yeah, I think I would prefer something a little more stripped down. I still haven't driven the 4xe, so okay. I can't say whether I'd like that better. I think in general, I just don't need this much power in a Jeep. I do appreciate the off-road ability. The big all-terrain wheels, tires, and the sway bar disconnect, all sorts of, lockers, all that sort of stuff. It would be a really fun car to take up to the trails up north. There's, just, you'd feel comfortable in the sand, on rocks. But yeah, just ridiculous engine and ridiculous exhaust note.
I drove that engine a couple months ago in the final edition of the Chrysler 300. That 392 is a beast.
Yeah.
I kind of like it a little bit more than the supercharged V8 in the Hellcat that I'm driving right now. I just don't need that extra horsepower for daily driving. A blown V8's a lot of fun. It really is, like supercharger whine, but I just feel like this motor, the 392, it's enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, naturally aspirated, it's plenty powerful. Really nice, power curve on it. Just I don't need that slingshot effect.
Yeah.
I don't need the extra, torque off the line. This is more than enough.
Yeah.
And I don't, in something with, a semi-soft top, and, already tons of noise coming in, I don't need the supercharger whine on top of it. Although I do, enjoy that in certain applications.
All of my passengers, because it's been a while since I've driven something that's so overtly supercharged, if you will. Like I did drive a Land Rover last year and things like that, where it's like, oh yeah, this thing's got a lot going on. But you get in like this thing and it's just like, wow, like you really hear that whine.
Yeah.
And I kind of like it too. But the 392 Wrangler, if you will, I have a theory about Wranglers. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
I don't need a ton of power, and I don't need a ton of chrome on my Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
I tend to prefer a little more of an understated look, and then Pentastar V6 is fine. I like the turbo diesel. I don't need a ton of raw power on the Wrangler for what I would do with it, either off-roading or daily driving. I think they had to offer a V8. I think they kind of had to get in there to like broaden the portfolio, given that the Bronco is here. And I think you can see so many changes were made to the Wrangler to freshen it in response to the Bronco. So, I think they had to do it. I'm kind of glad it's here. It's not necessarily my flavor of Wrangler, though. Not against it, but it's just probably not what I would do, how I would specifically spend my money, because this gets pricey pretty quick.
Yeah. And the sticker on this one was $95,900, so almost $100,000 Jeep. I'd be a little reticent to take that into the woods and give it its pinstripes. And a Jeep, if I own a Wrangler, I'm going to want to try and spend as much time off road with it as I can, and I'm going to be going slow. We don't have flat open desert. I suppose you could take it to the dunes and do some stuff, but I'd be worried about tipping it flying over a dune. I'd rather crawl it through mud and rocks and that sort of thing, and I just don't need the ability to go as fast as this thing does.
This is Jeep's answer to the Mercedes G-Class, I would also argue. Too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's definitely sort of a status symbol and a statement. If you're a Jeep person, maybe this, maybe you've got the one that you're not afraid to take off road and get beat up a little bit, and then you've got this one for cruising the street.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Did you take this off road at all? Cross your driveway? I know we had some storms, and your driveway was sort of blocked at both ends of the circle.
No, so
half circle.
The trees came down right after this went away, and I wish I still had this with the winch so I could just pull those limbs off the driveway. But no, I had to get out there with the chainsaw and clear up the driveway. These are big branches. We got a tree guy coming, but it would have been cool to have that. I could have gotten out of the driveway and could have cleared the driveway with it. No problem.
Nice. All right. Well, have you driven a Bronco lately? Just curious.
It's been a few months. I think it was maybe last fall.
Do you know where you are, like on the Bronco versus Wrangler rivalry? Which one would you probably pick if you were going to spend your own money? They both offer so many options right now. Yeah. Models, variants. Where would you land? Or would it be like 4Runner, Defender, or something else? Scout. Yeah.
I think Wrangler. I definitely choose Wrangler over the Bronco, personally. Okay. I just think it I don't know, the Wrangler feels more classic and true to like the CJs than the Bronco feels to the older Broncos. And it just, I don't know, some of the interior touches, the quality, the switchgear and stuff is better in the Wrangler. The Bronco, there's some, you touch some of the things on the steering wheel and they feel a little squishy and weird. And I think Jeep's more my flavor.
Go ahead.
Although after my latest stint in a 4Runner, that's really cool too. I could see myself, because you can, that's pretty comfortable too. It's pretty a little easier to daily drive and to live with. Mm-hmm. So I'd consider leaning that route nowadays. But generally, if you would ask me this question anytime, in the past 10, 20 years, I would have been Jeep Wrangler all day and would still choose the Wrangler over the Bronco. That's
where I would land too, but it's a really tough call. I like the interior of the Jeep better. I like the design a little bit better, even though I love the retro throwback looks of the Bronco.
Yeah.
Don't really love the interior all that much, to be honest, of the Bronco. It's nothing, terrible about it, but I prefer the Jeep approach. When I drove the Bronco for the first time, I really was super excited about it. Really did like it. I do prefer a little bit how the Bronco drives on I would say 40 to 60 mile an hour roads, sort of just big roads, and probably the expressway too.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just because I feel like it's a little more poised than the Wrangler is, which would, as far as if this were going to be my daily driver, that would factor in heavily. I do think just the fact that a Jeep is a Jeep is a Jeep.
Yeah.
I think that's where I would fall though. If I was I'm going to get one of these, you got to get the Jeep. In fact, the 4Runner might really creep in there too, you said.
4Runner's pretty cool. I mean, it still feels pretty ancient.
But I like that.
The tech hasn't been updated and I mean, it has a little bit, but it still feels pretty old, but not in a bad way. It's charming and it's easy to use. It's familiar, and you don't get bogged down in menus and whatnot too much. And the displays are old, but that's fine.
As far as daily driving, I almost kind of like the bouncy jouncy, especially the TRD, the TRD Pro of the 4Runner. So I could even see that creeping in ahead of the Bronco, even though I could be thrilled with all three of them.
I will say this: put your pizzas or your takeout on the front seat of the 4Runner, and it's going to fall off when you brake.
Yeah, that's true.
But for me, you can fit a Nalgene.
Got to do it
in the 4Runner's cup holders. And so that's not going to be falling off the seat. So that's something to be said for it.
That's important. All right. So we talk about the Dodge Challenger Black Ghost. This is in my driveway.
To hear what you think.
Yeah, it's in my driveway right now. I'm going to swap it with Zach Palmer, our road test editor, I think towards the end of the day. At least that's what I'm going to tell him, because I want to keep this car as long as possible. I'm going to take it for a nice long drive this afternoon and probably drain the gas tank. It is, so to back up, this is a Hellcat. It's got the supercharged 6.2 liter supercharged V8, 807 horsepower, 707 pound-feet of torque, 8-speed automatic transmission. I'm not sure if you could get a manual Hellcat anymore. I don't know if you can. I drove one in back in 2014 with that pistol grip, and man, that was a workout. But this is an automatic. It's all black. It's got the wide body kit, the wide body suspension. It's got 20-inch wheels. They're called Warp Speed Satin Carbon, which just look awesome. And then just to continue with some of the other things, it's essentially a Hellcat Red Eye wide body.
Yeah.
So that's what the car is. And then the Black Ghost, and I should mention it costs $99,315. The Black Ghost is sort of a tribute to a 1970 Dodge Challenger that, ruled Woodward back in the early 70s. There was a car known as the Black Ghost. I believe the original sold at auction recently for, a very nice sum. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
The original was iconic. I've seen it in person. I think I saw it at Cars and Coffee on Woodward last summer, maybe, right when it sort of was back in the news. And just to put a little bit of a bow on what this is, the Black Ghost is one of the of several last call final editions for the Challenger. I have not written my review up yet. I think I'm going to do this in probably like a 6, 8, 9 thoughts format. But my initial thought is, and I haven't driven all of the outgoing models, the final editions, if you will. I think this is the best one. I really do. I love it. It's got the history. It's got the mystery, if you will, because there's a little bit of a folklore element to the original story. And the execution is just awesome. Like, I don't know why, like if I were going to spec out a Dodge Challenger, like we covered earlier, I could be happy with the 392. I don't need the Hellcat engine, but the wide body, these satin wheels, the all black appearance. I mean, this is what I would probably do, something pretty close to it. So it's a riot to drive.
How do you feel about that roof? What is it, like it's almost like a gator skin.
It took me a minute to notice it. I didn't notice it at first. I was getting out of the car and the Challenger was relatively low, and I looked up there. I was like, "Oh, this is cool." Kind of like an Easter egg.
It helps that it's black on black. Otherwise, I would be embarrassed for people to see it.
Yeah, it's different. Let's put it that way. But again, it's one thing I've noticed. This is going to sound like a weird comparison. Football season is upon us. And a number of the teams that have sort of traditional jerseys do this weird thing on the sleeves where they make it like a different mesh or a different pattern. And it's like stuff that Nike and Under Armour does to, make you buy more jerseys. And you don't notice it right away, but then you do. Like I went to Michigan State, and if you look at our jerseys, they have these like Spartan keys on the sleeves. And I'm like, what is that? You don't notice it, but then you get close and you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. You see it in high def. And that's kind of how I thought this was on the car. You don't notice it at first, but then you're looking over the top and you're like, oh, hey, so I kind of like it. It works.
Man, I apart from that roof, I really like the way this thing looks. Those wheels, as you mentioned, are really cool.
Yeah.
Man, the Hellcat wide body. I drove one of those on the Indy Road Course back when they first launched the Hellcat wide body. And, oh man, it's just such a great car. I still think I'd go for a Scat Pack. Just like with the Jeep, I don't need all that power, but I don't know. If you're getting a last call, final edition of the Challenger, maybe you do go with the Hellcat. Just
it's true
because it's going away eventually.
They're only going to make 300 of this specific version of the last call, the Black Ghost. That is, yeah, man. It's obviously the Hellcat engine. It's been a minute since I've driven one. Holy cow, does it make noise? We get in the car and this is really funny. It's the first week of kindergarten for my son, and there's a number of neighbors that all go to the same school now, and they're all in kindergarten. So we get in the car, I fire up the Hellcat engine, and my wife goes, well, I think everybody knows that we're going to try and be early today, because it just reverberates across the neighborhood and through the trees, And yesterday I couldn't find a parking spot. So I'm circling this elementary school sounding
just cruising
a little obnoxious, because you lightly accelerate. It's just and you get the whine, you get the growl, and then you get a little bit of cackling too after accelerating on Woodward or something. I'm not doing this in the elementary school parking lot, but it sounds awesome, even maybe when you don't want it to.
Right.
Nice all black interior too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And man, 807 horsepower. It's
You got it.
just crazy. I mean, well, one thing I like about Challengers is, they go to the extremes with them.
Yeah.
And they're, unabashed about it too. It's kind of great.
I mean, that's Dodge right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Couple other points about this car. It says Dodge in letters across the hood. It's super old school. I love that. Yeah, I mean, you get like all the little like sort of Easter egg things like that. The original Black Ghost, again, it was 1970 Challenger, ruled the streets of Woodward. That one had a 426 Hemi V8, and it had a manual, as you would expect back then. And that car also became part of the National Historic Vehicle Register, which I think is kind of cool. A number of historically significant either cars or models have been added to that, which I think is really cool.
Yeah,
so, yeah, it's awesome. I will say that. I mean, like driving the Challenger also takes me back to like when they brought the Challenger back, and you remember just how much fun it is to drive a powerful coupe. There's not that many coupes out there. You got the long doors. You can put the windows all the way down because you got to listen to that Hellcat engine, right? And the wind isn't like trouncing you across your face. You're not bracingly. It's just a nice breeze. Granted, it's like a perfect 57 degrees right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do this in January, but it's a really, you drive a car like this and it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is why people like cars. They're fun.
Yeah.
They look cool. They're powerful. It's what, everybody has their own tastes, but I'm not sure too many people would drive this car and be like, oh yeah, no, that wasn't fun. Maybe it's not my flavor of brandy, but yeah, that was fun. So it's a little bit to handle too.
It's got to feel good driving this thing, right after Woodward and after Dream Cruise, that gets you sort of fired up about, powerful muscle cars, that sort of retro feel.
Yeah.
And then you get in this thing and you feel like maybe you could have had it, a couple weeks ago, but
yeah. Well, we were up north then, which was good too. But we did actually make it back for the Dream Cruise, but I took a Toyota Sienna, which doesn't quite have the same cachet.
Hey, my karate instructor has a last gen Sienna that he
nice.
That he has made a bunch of modifications to. It's got a bunch of power. He can do like burnouts in it. It's on. Man. I think it's on a bagged suspension. It's kind of neat. He used to work for Toyota, and he's got that, and he's got a Tundra that he's modified, and he puts them in like car shows and stuff. So yeah, I think a Sienna could fit if you did the right things to it. And he also told me about how to unlock the maintenance mode in the Sienna, so it keeps the engine going all the time and turns off all the nannies, so you can basically spin all four wheels in it if you work hard enough to, because it doesn't have a lot of power, but it's kind of neat.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting little trick. Boy, he's really up on his Toyota stuff.
Oh yeah, he's a shop teacher at Pioneer High School as well. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. Auto shop. Yeah.
All right. So I guess we should shift gears, talk about the Sportage hybrid versus the CRV hybrid. You did a comparison test. This is good one for all of our green, and it's a little bit electric. It's a hybrid, so it's partially electric. Have we reached a verdict on that yet? I don't know. We haven't written the story yet. Do you want to tell me? You want to keep it under wrap?
Byron and I have not shared our scores with each other yet.
Oh, that's fun.
I got my score sheet.
Those.
I got my score sheet filled out. I'm getting that to him end of the day with all my notes and whatnot. Okay. He's going to take the lead on writing the story. And boy, at least on my end, it's really close.
Okay, I can see that.
Which I suspected coming into it. This isn't one of those predetermined things. These are both super solid hybrid crossovers. But yeah, we had a fun day driving them. It was Byron Hurd and I swapping back and forth out on some of those good roads to the west of Ann Arbor, off of North Territorial, really great roads. It was kind of fun hustling these little hybrids down Hankard Road and whatnot. But both really solid cars. They're not the most exciting segment in the world, but both good hybrids. Very different sort of feel in both of them. I will say that the CRV feels a little more buttoned down, a little more refined, much better over the broken and undulating pavement that we see here in Michigan. Very electric feeling. The acceleration, it basically, it's feels like driving almost an electric car, except you hear motor going. It's very linear acceleration. But it's surprising how good that four-cylinder sounds in the Honda. It sounds pretty heroic. But yeah, it's definitely the more comfortable and more refined one. The Sportage is a little more loosey-goosey, feels a little heavier. It's more powerful though. If when we were sort of lead following each other, and if whoever was in the Sportage in front, they could easily pull away from the Honda, or in the Honda you couldn't catch up to the Sportage. And there's a lot more feel through the steering. It's maybe not quite as precise as the Honda steering. The Honda steering feels very electronic, artificial, but very precise. With the Sportage, you go over some potholes and it jerks the steering wheel around in your hand, which, it's good in terms of involvement. You feel very part of the drive. You have to sort of take mastery over the car. But that said, it's still surprisingly comfortable. It's just that the CRV is such a high bar to clear there. But yeah, we drove those around. The CRV, has that eCVT, and the Sportage has more of a traditional automatic transmission. So, the CVT in the Honda doesn't feel like a CVT though. It does a really good impression of regular automatic transmission. But yeah, I'm curious to see how Byron scored his, and which one's going to end up coming out on top, because like I said, for me it's very close. I won't pull back the curtain just yet, but yeah, I liked both these cars a lot. I came away liking them more than I did before. And I guess that's not a very high bar to clear either, because it's hard to maybe get super excited about commuter crossover hybrids, but yeah, they were both good to drive. Someone who had the Sportage before us had really been flogging it. There's a bunch of feathering on the edge of the tires and stuff. So that's the one that you might want to buy if you're looking to drive your hybrid real hard. But
as one does.
Yeah. But as like a family commuter, something calm and comfortable, nice ride, you're going to go with the CRV.
I believe I've driven both of these. I've definitely driven the gas powered versions of them. So I mean, generally speaking, I think both models are very strong. They both got updated in the last year or so. Again, they're definitely like daily driver, crossover, hybrid. It's very, business-like approach. This is the opposite of a Hellcat, so that's fine. I tend to really like the Sportage's design. I think Kia's really gone for it in recent years and really done some cool stuff. So that's been cool. But the CRV looks great too. I highly recommend the Honda to basically anyone, whether it's gas or hybrid. You can't really beat the execution. Kia gets slightly better fuel economy if you're really trying to eke out every last mile. So there's that, but they're both so good that it's not necessarily sure that's an area that that has to be a deal breaker. Pick the one you like. And speaking of like consumers versus you specifically, but there is a little bit of a difference. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. The fuel economy, the CRV gets 37 combined. The Sportage gets 38 combined.
Okay.
But the CRV gets 40 city, 34 highway, while the Sportage is 38 across the board. So if you're doing more highway driving and you care about fuel economy, you might want to go with the Sportage. But if you're doing a mix of both, one MPG this high up the MPG scale is not really much of a difference at all. As for the design, the Kia definitely has the more exciting design. This one had like the matte gray paint too, which looks cool. I wouldn't want to live with it. It shows everything. There was like a little dent in one of the fenders, and you can just spot it from a mile away. So I don't know if I'd go with that, although it is different. Looks different than everything else on the road. And the interior design, the CRV is very straightforward, very comfortable. The front seats are more comfortable, but the Sportage has, that big curved dual digital display as sort of the centerpiece. Just really a little more interesting interior.
All right. Well, I won't ask you to scoop like your own story here. So, I guess we could kind of leave it there. And then when you guys get a verdict, we'll get the story up. We could revisit this on a future podcast, talk about all the, ins and outs of these two pretty attractive hybrids.
Mm-hmm. And just the process of doing a comparison test is really
it's fun
too. We could talk about that sometime too, because we had some great roads, and Zach Palmer, our road test editor, set it all up and had routes for us, and it was just a really, really fun experience. I'm looking forward to doing more comparos.
They're fun, and it seems like we always get a nice a very nuanced story out of it. So. All right, let's talk some news. Kind of a deep cut here. Let's flash back to 2008. Felipe Massa is filing a suit against the FIA, saying that he should be the winner of the 2008 F1 title. To go all the way back, if you don't remember this, he was leading a race when Nelson Piquet Jr., I believe it was in Singapore, purposely wrecked. And that obviously changed the outcome of the race, and then changed the outcome of the season, because Massa ended up losing it to Lewis Hamilton, who obviously the rest is history. He's won, I believe, 7, which, that's right. Here we go. The report, he ties Michael Schumacher. So Massa was a great driver back then at that point too. So it certainly wasn't, like it would have been a fluke. He drove for Ferrari. He had a great career. A lot of people always thought he handled this pretty well because, once you found out that Nelson Piquet Jr. admitted that he purposely crashed on team orders, and the Renault team at that time was a bit of a kind of a dumpster fire. People I think people could justifiably say he was screwed. That being said, a lot of different things could have happened over the course of the season that, could have also changed the course of history. They've never changed an F1 champion, especially not this long afterwards. So I don't know. I think he has a case, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it will. Because, after that crash, which, that was dirty, but not totally out of bounds for Formula One.
Yeah, especially that time.
Yeah. Ferrari screwed up Massa's pit stop and left the fuel hose in. He drove off with it, and that took him down a few spots too. So there's that. If you want to give him the title, you have to sort of nullify that whole race. All the final positions of that race, which is kind of a tough thing to ask for. You can maybe ask for PK and his team's points to be wiped out, and even then, Hamilton still would have won. I think he might have even won the championship with more points. So it's I think it's highly, highly, highly unlikely that this will go anywhere. I could maybe see FIA agreeing to some sort of settlement in terms of monetary, because it did sort of hurt Massa's career, his opportunities, his bonus that he would have gotten, his commercial opportunities, and then the next year he got that horrible injury
in Hungary.
That was I remember when that happened. That was horrible. That's when I started watching F1, was I think the 2009 season. But I think I really empathize with him, but I don't really see this case going anywhere. But he definitely got screwed, and but why is it now? Why so many years later, why didn't they address this more seriously back when it happened? That would have been the time to resolve this. Maybe there's some part of the story that I'm missing that prevented them from moving forward with it, but I don't know why it's all these years later.
I think some of this stems from comments from, I don't know if they just discovered this or just decided to act, that Max Mosley and Bernie Ecclestone, who ran F1 at the time, they knew about it apparently, and they just didn't really handle it. They were like, well, we're just going to kind of take a not do anything about it. So I think that's his point, is that they should have, it's almost like, but I mean, even that, and I mean, my opinion is I think Hamilton does deserve the title. I think, he played it out on the track. That is what happened. He won the title, So, there is a little bit of, that this is always what happens in sports, is there's a bunch of like, well, did the clock expire? Well, maybe it did, but it doesn't matter. That you could look at a replay 20 years later, or maybe the field goal was wide right, but at the time in the rain, November in 1980, they called it a field goal, kind of is what it is. Obviously there's some intrigue, is putting it nicely. There was clearly some, funny business going on by the Renault team, because they were trying to benefit Fernando Alonso, who was his teammate at the time. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy that Alonso and Hamilton are still racing. They're like our age still, which is cool. And it did change the course of Massa's career. If he wins that title, he probably is, he gets bigger contracts down the road.
Oh, for sure.
He is like an international celebrity. You're an F1 champion. You're an F1 champion for life, right?
Yeah.
So, that does change things. And then that accident at the Hungara Ring, the Hungarian Grand Prix. I remember covering that for Auto Week. That was horrible, and
that was scary.
Yeah,
man.
So let's run through some news here.
Okay.
Some other news. Street-oriented performance truck. This would be the F-150 Lobo. I don't think they'd call it that, but hey, we have a story saying that, hey, there could be something bringing this back. Broad strokes, I think just having performance trucks is actually a fun idea, and I think that would work. I mean, what do you think? It's kind of a deep cut from history here.
I know, as someone who came of driving age in the 90s, when street performance trucks were a thing still. I wasn't into them then. I kind of thought they were goofy and lame, but I don't know. Yeah. Now, looking back with rose-colored glasses, I kind of miss having that as a segment. I think it'd be neat to have a street-focused truck, with tons of power, but doesn't have to have like the AT4X sort of style, off-roadiness, Raptor style. It just make it like the Lightning of old. I think that'd be neat.
They've already sort of used the Lightning name, so I think it's they got to do something. Yeah, so.
It'd be cool. It'd be refreshing to see those instead of just today. If you want to like max out your truck and have it be a lifestyle statement, they're always jacked up and then have a bunch of power. It'd be refreshing to see a different take on a performance truck back on the road.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. And, why not? Another F-150 makes more money, why not? They don't have like a Lincoln or a luxury truck, so nor probably should they. So why not just load up the F-150,
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense. Let's talk about the Rabbit. We got a teaser from Volkswagen, and they've done some odd things lately with Volkswagen and other things. Sometimes you don't want to take them at face value.
Yeah.
They put a rabbit on social media.
Yeah.
So
they're kind of counting down to the Munich show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the tweet says the internet is full of cats. Everyone likes cats. We like them too. But today we want to honor the rabbit for good reason. Stay tuned. Mm-hmm. And they're sort of counting down to the upcoming auto show. And that was the first of what I assume will be 7 tweets. Since then, they have one of just a garage saying they're working on a very special vehicle. They have one with bees and honey on it. I don't know what that means. And then
that's a little hard to unpack.
The most recent one from today is a Scottish dude in his tartan playing bagpipes. So that, that's a little clue. So I don't know if they're gonna, I don't know. I would love to see a rabbit sort of thing. I don't know if it would be electric or what. They're being really coy, but something with plaid seats and a little retro styling would be pretty cool. They already said they're not going to do the Beetle. They recently said that they won't bring the Beetle name back. So why not the rabbit?
Yeah, I mean it fits in with kind of Volkswagen's cheeky approach to car branding and the way they connect with their customers. So I think it could be fun. Wouldn't necessarily be the first name I would bring back, but hey, sure, go for it. We'll see. More news out of Munich, which is shaping up to be kind of an interesting show.
Yeah, and I could see if it is electric, it might make sense to if you're going to have a Golf style EV, not bring back the e-Golf name and make it its own model and give it its own looks and feel. So you don't feel like you're just driving an electrified version of the internal combustion car.
I've long argued that as far as just like, that's a good idea. But I also think as far as like, excuse me, the name Volkswagen, they did that whole Volkswagen one day thing, which all it really did was annoy the media.
Yeah.
I actually think they didn't play it right. They did not play it right. It sounds like their agency really sold them on a bill of goods and then they did it. And then they really took a lot of hell for it. But I actually think that'd be cool if you could option a Volkswagen badge on your ID4 for future things. Like, I think that would be cool.
Yeah. I mean, if they hadn't, gapped the April Fool's joke or whatever,
yeah,
it would be a fine thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to change the formal name or the VIN or anything like that, but just you want to put Volkswagen, they'll do it for you. Yeah. I think that's cool. I think they should do that.
They still could. They still could.
They still could. In fact, in some ways, because it's been long enough and it was infamous, but it did. I don't think the consumers really cared all that much.
Yeah.
The media were more mad at the PR guys and the company and the agencies than anything else.
Yeah.
Because they did like lie to everybody about it, which was kind of shady. But I think that'd be cool. If I were going to get an ID4, they're like, hey, here's this option box. You could get this name badge. You can put it on there and it'll be kind of cool. I think that'd be cool.
I wonder if there's someone out there like on Etsy selling those already.
Oh, that's a good move.
They could claim the IP. Volkswagen could. And
they could. All right, let's talk about this Alfa Romeo supercar, I guess you'd call it that. We are doing this a little bit live here, recording this on Wednesday morning. And there was a live stream today where Alfa Romeo brought back the 33 Stradale. This summons the history of the Tipo 33. So Stellantis is really dipping into their catalog, at least as far as what we're choosing for this podcast. Just 33 of them will be made, so something hewing to the name. They're custom built. You can choose from two different versions. V6 twin turbo, 620 horsepower, or battery electric. This will give you 750 horsepower with a range of over 300 miles. They're saying 450 kilometers. Top speed is 206 miles an hour, 0 to 62 in less than 3 seconds. So that's kind of like the top line.
I'm just opening up the Dropbox now and seeing these photos for the first time. And
it's impressive.
Wow. That is a pretty car. Man, I really like that silhouette, the way the roof tapers to the tail. Oh, man, that's good looking. And the interior is really neat. The switchgear, all that metal, almost looks like an airplane cockpit. It's got that sort of brushed stainless steel or aluminum with all those interesting toggles and what looks like, a throttle from a 747. Whew. This is a hot little number right here. I like it.
They're already sold out, apparently. It's really impressive. I think it's a nice modern interpretation of that car from 1967. It looks like something you'd see at Geneva. They're calling them butterfly doors.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing kind of opens up kind of like with the front hood, the front, if you will, and then the back, the hood, if you will, over the engine. It's impressive. I mean, if the idea is to get people fired up about Alfa Romeo again, I mean, a lot of people are going to be interested in this, even though they'll never really get it. But maybe they could build some other sports cars that look a little bit like this and build that kind of attention.
Yeah, take this design language and build upon that. I really like the windows, the little window situation going on there. Yeah, like SVX style. Oh man.
I mean, if you look back at the original, I mean, holy cow, the 33, it's like, just gorgeous. They only made, well, now I'm looking at Wikipedia. They say they only made 18 of these things back in the late 60s. this, like that car, this kind of goes into the, like Alfa gets into the really custom build, low volume, high-end sports cars, supercars. Again, I don't know. I don't hate this move. I think from a business perspective, this is probably what Alfa should do. Don't try to make some compact crossover that nobody's going to really associate with you. Make a high-end sports car. Maybe like they're in F1. Frankly, Alfa's been a basket case throughout 10 years of history. Like, they're never going to be Toyota. So yeah, do this. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all for it. Do more things like the 8C and and things that are sort of special and rare, and then build up some hype and some love for the brand, and then make stuff that not everyone else is making.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be you don't have to compete with the mainstream, I suppose.
Yeah, I remember the 4C, which was another one of the really. I drove that actually through Lower Manhattan, which was just insane. I would never advocate driving that car through a busy city. When they're right, they can make awesome cars.
Yeah, the 4C is one I never drove. I always wanted to. Just heard wonderful things about it. How balanced it was. And yeah, I would definitely drive this though. Holy smokes!
Yeah, it's butterfly doors. It's really something, and I like how they really made that curvy body style with those headlights. It looks a lot like an Italian race car from the 50s and 60s. You look at like some of those Testarossa Ferraris, it really embodies all of that. And it's really quite something. So, the pictures are great.
I'm not seeing a price in the press release. Did you happen to see that anywhere?
I didn't, because they're already sold out, right? 33. Yeah. Who's gonna? I don't know. What would you guess? 500,000 for these things?
Oh, maybe.
3,
4, 3.
Let's see
hard to tell.
The Pininfarina. What was that? I'm trying to remember how much that was. Like 395. Oh no, the Bautista was 4.8 million. So there's that. My guess is they're not going to be that pricey. No. But this is cool.
What a neat thing to come live right in the middle of recording a podcast.
Yeah, man, those wheels. This is cool. This really is. The back end, it kind of even has that, like, the cockpit is insane. I think it's one of the coolest interpretations of like a classic design, but looking also totally futuristic. If this looks half as good in real life as it does in these pictures, in all parts, but interiors can be tricky to get right in cars like this. And it sure looks like they did.
Yeah. I can't wait to hopefully see one in the flesh someday. Because I want to stick my head in.
Yeah. You see the switchgear? That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's so good.
The gauges, steering wheel. I think at this point, the best thing we can tell you to do is check out Autoblog. This podcast is dropping, as it always does, on a Friday. If somehow you're on your deck, you're grilling burgers, and you're like, what the hell are they talking about? Open another beer and go back and go through all these pictures on the site. It's a really beautiful car.
It is.
All right. And that's all the time we have this week. If you enjoy the Autoblog podcast, we'd love it if you would give us a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get the show. It helps us get the word out. Thanks and a shout out to our producer, Eric Meyer, for all the good work he does, making us sound good and keeping everything coherent. Send us your Spend My Money. That's podcast@autoblog.com. Be safe out there. Our theme song is Skyway Traffic. We'll let them take us out.